Hi, this is Joe Moriarty. Thanks for another edition coming to the Training-Led Growth podcast. Today I'm joined by an awesome guest, Tom Clancy from UiPath. Hello, Tom.
Hi, Joe. Hi, everybody.
Hey, thank you, Tom, for joining. Really appreciate your time. Really appreciate your experience in this industry. I don't want to say, how old you are, but you've got the years behind you to have a lot of wisdom. Let's just start there, right?
I'm almost dead, Joe.
just starting to live. But so Tom, you've spent decades in the learning, training, education space, almost all in high tech. So I think you bring a ton to this conversation and to this podcast for us. One of the things I want to just start with right out of the gate, we call this the Training-Led Growth podcast. And, you've been a senior leader many years at EMC, which is now Dell EMC, but many years at EMC. You grew that whole business to becoming the chief learning officer for many years at EMC. Now, chief learning officer of one of the most innovative and fastest growing technology companies in the world, UiPath. So you've seen a lot in this high, not only high tech, but in learning in general. So one of the things I want to ask right out of the gate is, can you talk to us just a little bit about customer education, customer training, and how you've seen it influence sales or customer growth? And then have you seen it influence just overall customer happiness, customer satisfaction?
So I'll give a few examples. Because if you're in the learning space and you're doing customer education, good chance that, especially now, good chance is that somebody will come to you and say, what's the value of customer education? Should we really be spending this money and so forth? And, that question has come up a lot. I've been doing this learning thing now for probably about 20 years, give or take. I took a little break between my last company and UiPath. But at the end of the day, if you're doing customer education, you're always going to be asked that question. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a few examples that I've leveraged. Number one, there was a clothing company called Sims I'm out of Boston if you can't tell, but it's a clothing company that I think they're out of business now, like a long time ago. But what they said is an educated customer is my best customer, and that's no different whether it's a clothing company or a tech company or insurance, healthcare, and so forth. You want educated customers. But then, sales is going to come back and say, yeah, but how much money should we invest in this? And so we tackled that in one of my previous roles. And, after a data scientist looked at it and looked at customers that didn't get trained and customers that did get trained, they saw that there was a huge difference over a course of a few years. And we showed that to the sales team and they were blown away. But at the end of the day, it showed for every dollar that a customer purchased for a customer education, and they use the education, there would be an incremental $12 of product revenue.
Wow.
So there's a ratio. So, right there, that kind of says it all. Then we've also seen, when having a data scientist in your group is a great thing. Because it really validates that person can validate what you're doing. We've seen NPS scores go up. We've seen service calls go down. We've taken examples like the worst customer from a call volume point of view, service call volume point of view, and we've done worst to best, where we've trained the heck out of them. And the next thing you know, they're at the bottom of the list from a number of calls. So whether it's sales, customer success, training definitely helps a lot. It has a direct impact, but sometimes it's difficult to measure.
That was an incredible metric you shared. For every dollar spent on training and learning, the result is $12 in incremental product sales.
Yeah, and then we did the math, and we found that there was about $700 million. This wasn't UiPath, but there was about $700 million that training was having a direct impact on. If we didn't have a good customer training function, then that $700 million was at risk annually.
I mean, that's a big number. That's a very big number. That's incredible. I've also heard many times that people will make the business case for training and learning that there's a cost savings. It's going to drive down inbound customer support calls. It's going to drive down, a lot of calls where people just don't know how to use the product as well as they could. And I think in learning, a lot of times we tend to go to that level, but the revenue opportunity is massive. I mean, that is just a huge opportunity that I don't think a lot of training and learning and education leaders are bringing to sales. I don't know that they're bringing it to the chief revenue officer or the VP of sales, maybe because they don't have the data scientist. So I thought that was another big, recommendation is like get into the data science of it, bring those metrics to sales, and then sales should say, wow, that's an incredible impact.
Yeah. So, 10 years ago when we did this study, the role of data scientist wasn't really known. Companies like Yahoo and Google, they had them. I'm not even sure they were calling them data scientists.
Yep.
But now there's really no excuse. Every learning organization should have their own data scientists, or they should have direct access, out of the IT group. But you cannot run a learning function properly if you don't have access to a data scientist.
So with the previous experience you've had, big company, previous experience, which you grew to a very big team, very big, generating revenue, and that you guys were selling instructor-led training, selling virtual instructor-led training, going into subscription learning. So it was a real revenue generating business. And then you've also seen more recently a strategy of more of a proliferation strategy, right? Where the idea is that you try to just get as many people trained on a technology. Is that right? Is that kind of the experience that you've gone through?
Yeah. So, I think that whole topic is really dependent on the company's overall goals. Working at a large company, a lot of, at least in a tech company, a lot of times companies, they see the value of customer education through the profit that it brings in. There are high margins, and it's hard for large companies that want that revenue stream to give training away for free. And so, from that point of view, I don't blame them. If it often rolls up into professional services, and it's often the highest margin business. So you can't fault those companies. Now, if you look at UiPath, which is it's a much smaller software robotics company, we have a new technology, relatively speaking, last few years in the industry. And we want everybody to know about robots as fast as possible, because whoever's watching this video, if you're not using robots today, you will be. And you'll be using them very soon, not just within the learning function, but you will be using them on your personal time. So, but the challenge is not a lot of people know about software robots. And so our strategy is to democratize the learning. We want everybody on the planet to understand what a software robot is, what robotic process automation, RPA, is, and we want to grow the company that way. We don't want to grow the company by trying to generate, training revenue. So it depends on the strategic goal of the company. And what we did is we went out 3 years ago and we created something called Academy, UiPath Academy. And we've had, in the last 3 years, at the end of this year, we will have over 900,000 subscribers.
Wow.
And if we were charging for training, that never would have happened. And then now our competitors, they followed suit because, they couldn't be selling training if the number one company in the industry was giving away for free. So now if you look at all the things that are happening, the recent COVID stuff, you can say we're ahead of our time, we were forward thinking, but you're going to find a lot more companies giving training away for free. They might segment the training. They might say, okay, if it's straightforward product training, we'll just slap it up on e-learning, put an academy in place. Then if it's more advanced training, then maybe they would charge for that out of the PS group or something like that. more on the consulting side, which is fine. But I think if you can put something in e-learning or streaming, then you're going to see a lot of that going free in the next few years.
Yeah, I think we've seen that trend as well. I think it's really interesting. I think that also, especially with a newer technology or if you're a newer software company and you're trying to not only grow your users and get people to understand your product, what do you think? Do you think that having some training available off the public website, do you find that helps even convert people that aren't even customers yet to get them to become customers?
Yeah, I mean, it's happened with us thousands of times. Customers are smarter today. Prospects are smarter. When you have your first call, it's very rare that the customer hasn't looked into you and your competitors. If they haven't, then that's a problem on this side. But if you're a buyer, like, I don't care if you're buying a washing machine or a car, or you go on the web today and you do your research and you know what you want. So it's our jobs, the learning organization's job, to make that experience really good. And so when they, plus you can go to the marketing portal too, but training is a better way to make the customer feel better versus, the traditional marketing stuff. So literally thousands of companies have looked at our academy, gone through the courses, sometimes even got certified before they even placed a phone call to us.
I mean, that's amazing. And I agree that the training group and the content creators, it's such a deeper level of content that I think when you put it on the website, and I've gone through the UiPath Academy and it's amazing, is that, and by the way, we at Raven 360 adopted what you guys do and have put an academy, our own academy. So we actually, even though we're a learning platform, we want to showcase using our own stuff, putting our own content in an academy format. So we've seen the results too, is that people, by the time they want to talk to a salesperson, they say, no, I get it. I know how to use it. Let's just talk about business. Let's talk about pricing. Let's talk about how does this, the business terms. So that's, but something jogged my a question that you said. What about certifications? Do you charge for certifications? Will you give certifications away? How does that work?
Well, we actually just switched. We had, because we were a small company, and just to give some perspective, our revenue hopefully will be about, 600 million, this year. But we've grown in the last, and so again, the company is UiPath. Most people haven't heard of UiPath. A lot of people haven't heard of software robots. That's what we do. The company, the revenue in the last 5 years or so went from $500,000 annual to 5 to 55 to 180, and last year I think we're about like 420 or something. We're still a private company. So if you look at that and where we came from, a lot of things that we did were, just to get it out there. We weren't trying to be the most professional people on the block and have like a Cisco or Oracle type certification. What we wanted to do is scale, and we wanted to make it easy for everybody. So we had an online certification. It actually expires this month. Mm-hmm. And we've had 40,000 people go through that certification. But, if you want certification today, you really want the high stakes, very secure, proctored type certifications. And I think that certification will become more important, based on all this remote budget, all the reasons why people are doing more and more remote stuff. I think that certification and remote certifications will become more important. Just think about, you can talk about universities today too. And, some of I don't have any kids in college anymore, but I have nieces and nephews that are in college and they're all in high school and they're all at home, like millions of other families, doing their remote learning. Who knows what's going to happen with the colleges? But, are they going to be able to charge as much? They're already talking about, 2021 being a remote education again.
Yep.
So certification becomes more important. I have one niece that's in college, and now they've gone mostly to pass fail.
Wow.
If I'm a hiring manager, do I really want to? Unless it's an awesome school, do I really want to hire someone with a pass fail approach? Why don't we? I think you'll see more certification even at the college level, where the kids have to prove themselves, and especially in high tech, you're going to see more and more certifications and at different product levels and so forth. So I think certification becomes much more important going forward.
And I think I definitely agree based on everything you just said. And also their certifications they're great for the user. I mean, if you can go out and get certified on a leading edge technology like robotic process automation and UiPath, that's something that enhances your career. You're basically saying, I'm an expert in RPA and you're valuable. People need that more than ever too, especially, biggest companies in the world are investing in RPA like crazy. So showing that you've been certified, which is also why I think that there's that, there should be value, meaning that you should pay for it. You should pay for this because the testing becomes more real. You've had to invest time, you've had to invest some money, but it's a true differentiator as an employee. I think.
Yeah, and then if you look at the things like nano degrees, they'll become more important too. Companies, I don't know, probably like the last 6 years or so, companies like Google and all the West Coast tech companies, they've been hiring nano degree candidates for a long time now. Because why do you have to go through 4 years worth of college when you can become a great programmer in 9 months to 2 years? And you get on the job and you're just as effective as a person that went through 4 years of college. So I think you'll be seeing a lot more of that too.
I totally agree. I've been on that bandwagon for a long time. Where I think like if you're a technical kid, and most of them are now, that if you know that you like computer science or computers or even gaming or things like that, I feel like there should be some programs for I know there's one called Lambda School, which is really, I think they started to actually educate veterans and folks that were migrating from even almost like factory work to high tech. They've done an amazing job where they're just doing like you said, it's like a nano degree that's, I think it's 18 or 24 months. And then next thing you know, you learn how to code. It's a coding academy. I think that those are going to be incredible for the workforce. Totally agree with you. And it's like, I wonder, it's like after this, why, if you're doing remote work anyways, and you're not even going out to the college campus, why am I going to spend 4 years doing what? It's like, what if you learn a hardcore skill like coding or robotic process automation? I just think like that would be such a better investment of time and money.
Yeah. So you'll see companies like UiPath doing more of that. Whether MOOCs make a resurgence or not, I'm not sure. But I think nano degrees is good.
So do you guys have an academy program? Meaning, do you put classes and coursework together for universities and computer science?
Yeah, so we have something called Academic Alliance.
Okay.
And what that does, so we're big into democratization. If you understand that that's our goal, then you understand why we do everything else we do. So we just introduced the Academic Alliance program about a year ago. And, by the time we got it up and running, and in the first 9 months, we signed up 9 to 12 months. We signed up 500 universities across the globe.
Wow!
And so, we first thought, well, this would be great to go into computer science, but our technology, software, robots, RPA, is really great for accounting. If you think of all the processes that happen in accounting, all we do is we automate process, we automate task. It's that simple. So. If you look at, whether you're closing the books, doing invoicing, doing auditing, all these things, we have one company, a customer that we got 150,000 people up to speed in about 6 months, either users or software developers or what we call citizen developers. But we got 150,000 people up to speed in about 6 months. And that was mostly auditing people. At least a third of them were auditing people.
Wow, like tax preparation and tax auditing?
All that.
Wow.
It's all, when you think spreadsheet, scraping from the web, sending out emails, all these things can be automated very easily. And so everybody will have a digital assistant on their laptop or multiple digital assistants. So, you go to lunch, you go home to spend time with your family, press the button, and the work just happens.
Yeah,
So
I read one of your case studies. It was one of the big four, consulting and tax preparation firms. I don't know if I can mention them, but one of the biggest in the world. And they talked about how with RPA and UiPath, they were able to take the exact processes you were talking about. And it's like, some of it's just copying and pasting, right? You got to go from Excel, and then you have to look at SAP, or you have to go to, Workday, or you have to go to any of the big back office systems, and automate, software robots are just able to just strip out so much of that manual time. And it's incredible. And you guys teach, and what you were just saying is that you're able to teach those, they're not even coders, they're business application people that are able to learn, figure out how to do that automation, put it in place, and then off they go.
Yeah. So in the future, if you're somebody like a finance type person, and you work with spreadsheets and you work with databases and you send out emails, anything like that, or if you're like a contact center person and you have 3 screens in front of you, maybe you work in an insurance company, a healthcare, and you're talking with customers that call you up. In the future, instead of that contact center person saying, well, could you hold on, Mr. Moriarty? I'll be right back with you.
Yeah.
They don't have to do that in the future. They just press a button, and all that information that they would have gone and tried to get off the different databases and everything on their 3 screens, it'll just pop right up. So they'll keep talking to you maybe about giving you advice on, what other types of insurance you could buy. And then the information comes up, and then they just keep talking to you. But the digital assistant is right beside them at the press of a button.
Wow. Yeah, that stuff's, it's unbelievably powerful. It's incredible technology. We're investing in it ourselves as a learning platform. Like we want to use this UiPath software bots to do things like setting up classes and setting up instructors, doing virtual and remote learning session automation. So we completely see the value. Our technical team and, like you said, our business teams.
Yeah. So if I just comment on, if there's one thing I can share here, 10 years ago, I was telling everybody, I'd go around to the different learning conferences, and if they asked me to speak, one thing I would always talk about is data science. Now, if they ever invite me back, then I would talk about software robots, and not just because I work at a software robot company. I honestly had never heard of software robots 18 months ago, when I first started here.
Right.
And I didn't really get it. But then when you see the demo, it's like, wow, like how could you live without, it's like, how could you live without your cell phone? That's right. What robots will be like in the future. So from a learning point of view, if you are running a learning organization, you really do need to look into robotic process automation. We use about 6 robots in our learning function. One that I'm building right now is I want my learning scorecard, how I run the business, how many certifications, how many classes, how many courses, how many everything, evaluation information. I want it on my desktop every single morning. So when I wake up in the morning, I can see all the vital signs of the learning organization, and I can see it in trends, and that is extremely doable. I should have that in a month, and we haven't even started writing the robot yet.
Yeah, so you're taking, what you used to have someone on the team put together in Excel, export a bunch of stuff out of a couple systems, maybe 3-4 systems, put it in Excel, have to do all this formatting. Now the boss just says, nope, know how to do it, put it all in place, give it to Tom, you have it.
Yeah, and then what I'll do is I will, once I have that, then I'll take my audiences, let's take customer success, and all the learning that goes on for them, I will send them their own learning scorecard as frequently as possible, as appropriate. However, if they want it every day, great. If they only want it to show up Monday morning, great. You can just, schedule the robot to send it out once a week.
Yep.
So everybody from a business, running a learning business point of view, should have at least a few robots.
So you used a word a couple times, democratization. When you say that about you guys are believers in democratization, what does that mean? Just to kind of, can you explain that to us?
So if you have a pulse, you should be able to get trained on UiPath learning. Usually it's the internals, then it's customers and it's partners. You mentioned universities across the globe where we have 500. We have upskilling, reskilling initiatives. So, groups like accounting, industry accounting groups we work with, the vets we work with. We want to work with anybody that wants to learn, and we want to make it as free as possible. And just go to Academy, and you can get all the training you want. You can learn to be an associate. You can learn to be an advanced developer. And then when we have certification, we took a democratization approach there too. We have two levels: the $150 for associate and $200 for the advanced developer. Well, advanced developers, like let's say that you've coded, for a living, I don't know, you're still early in your career, late 20s, 30s, and you've coded and you become an RPA developer. I just told you that was really easy to do and get certified. You could easily be making six figures as an RPA, easily. So we want it to be as easy as possible. If you want to be in the RPA space, either as a user or as a developer, we want to make that really easy.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I watched also a presentation by Daniel Dines, the CEO of UiPath, and everyone's like, oh, there's automation is like taking jobs, but it's actually going the other way. It's actually saying no, actually automation is creating much higher paid jobs, and because it's like there's people still there, but you're using the data more, you're becoming more effective. Like you're basically get to do the work that we're really good at, which is thinking and analyzing, and you get the computer to do the automation and the robots to do the automation stuff that you don't, the manual stuff anyways.
Yeah, I had a BlackBerry like everybody else did, and then a couple of people on my team said, "Gee, you should really get one of these new Apple things."
Yeah.
This smartphone. And I said, I have a BlackBerry. I don't need it. And so I postponed it for a few months because I felt, no, why should I spend the money? Even though the company was paying, why should I spend the money? And it sounds a little ridiculous now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you want to have a digital assistant?
Right.
Everybody is going to have a digital assistant. Now, maybe that sounds better than robot, but I'm not the one to say whether it's going to take jobs or not. It will definitely. We do believe there will be a net increase in jobs with RPA, but then there's definitely jobs that they'll get reduced.
Right.
If you have a bunch of people doing data entry, there's a percentage of those people that will need to reskill and probably get into better jobs.
Right.
But if you're a business person, you need to run the business competitively.
Yeah, I think that you can take the manual data entry, copy and paste, move file from point A to point B, and then reskill to wait a minute, let's automate, and then let's just figure out other processes that need to get automated. It's really incredible stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at the growth. The growth in the company speaks to that in and of itself. But then when you actually see the technology, you're like, oh wow, this is transformative. It really is. powerful technology.
Yeah, so I'm not here to sell anybody on RPA or UiPath. What I'm here to say is, as a learning executive, you should really look at tools like this that help you run your business better.
Yeah,
and this is definitely one that will be in your toolbox sooner or later.
So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. All right, Tom, let me ask you, thank you for the time again. Let me ask you one more question. And this is just, again, for kind of the learning and the education services folks. But you've seen it all. You've seen face-to-face instructor-led training, and then start to go to e-learning and through virtual and on demand. And what do you think, look down the road, maybe 5 years, what do you think is going to be a trend that's just going to continue? You can leave us with.
So I would say that so a lot of times, if you want to drive change, you need an event to make it happen. I've been in my company, I've been pushing for distance learning, but our professional services team likes to do face-to-face instructor-led training, and I don't blame them. But you can do distance learning with our software, our training. But it takes an event a lot of times to make people change. And on this unfortunate event that we're working in, like we had, let's say, 20 classes all scheduled for instructor-led training, and they all got canceled because nobody was going to come in. And we as a company were kind of waiting up until the last minute that we'll show up, we'll deliver the training, and then finally we just canceled it. It was useless. So now everybody's talking about distance learning and how can we make that better. And it's like, in our company, it's like a new thing, but it's been going on for years. So the world has changed. We're all going to change with it. And I think across the board for education, whether it's the grammar schools, colleges, businesses, government, private, it doesn't matter. E-learning is going to shoot up. Distance learning is going to shoot up. And it's going to stay at those high levels. And what I think will end up happening is kind of like the flipped classroom will go crazy. People will have a lot more respect for degrees that were got with distance learning. Maybe 5 years ago, people still weren't really accepting it that much in colleges. Now everybody will say, "Oh yeah, that's just as good as face-to-face, and why spend the money?" Mm-hmm. So I think it's all a good thing. It will help us scale. It will help with globalization. It will help with democratization. We'll have a smarter world, and that's where innovation will come from. So that will be one of the benefits of this whole problem that we're facing. But now I think you'll see colleges. Some are going to go out of business.
Yeah, I read that. I read an article this morning that was saying that, and I hadn't thought about that. And I was like, wow, that could be talk about a change.
Yeah. And part of me, I just spent $250,000 on 2 kids going to college. So part of me thinks that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I know maybe my kids will benefit. I'm coming up on it. But I think you're right. And look, Raven 360 is, as you know, we provide virtual learning, on-demand, subscription-based learning, and we've talked about this. You and I have talked about this for years and years. And why isn't it adopted? And I had a conversation with a leader at BMC Software, and there was like a regional component to it. EMEA, Asia Pacific, really, in many ways, preferred the face-to-face. But right now, you also see, even within our own analytics and data science, is that everybody's had to move. Everyone is moving. Everyone's adopting. So I agree. I think that, the virtual and the on-demand and the subscription offerings will grow. And I think it's a good thing too. I mean, certainly we help provide that. So it's, so I'm biased, but it's true and it's happening.
Yeah. For years, I heard EMEA tell me, as a continent, no, we don't do e-learning and we don't do distance learning. Oops, looks like they were wrong.
Yeah, not anymore. It's true. It's true. Yep. Hey, well, Tom, this has been an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for the time.
All right. Thanks for the opportunity, and everybody go out and get your digital assistant.
We'll promote it. Thank you, Tom. So Tom Clancy, again, thanks for joining UiPath, incredible robotic process automation. We encourage any job function that's listening to look at RPA and how it can help and how UiPath can help your company. And if you're in education and learning and training, definitely take a look at the technology for this automation. And you go out to uipath.com and they have an academy, as Tom said, which you can go, learn from right there. And it's, as Tom said, right, it's democratized, doesn't cost you a thing. Is that right?
That's right.
All right. Well, Tom, thanks again. We'll be in touch,
thanks.
and let's hope to do it again down the road.